Space. I'm Kim Kral. I'm reporting to you. Jesus, I've been doing this for 2 years and I missed that. I'm reporting to you, not live from my closet. Hi, everybody. Hi. I doing better than I was last week, but some stuff unfolded the last few days and I'm sitting with it and I will tell you all about it in a bit. I have been waiting to record Crawl Space because someone, the people that live behind me, you don't remember. I don't know if you remember. You probably remember because I bitched about them for like an entire year on the podcast. The neighbors that were just really loud all the time. I don't know if I told you guys this, but the neighbors that were loud all the time, and that I was like contemplating either trying to seduce one of them or burn their place to the ground. Which I understand there's a lot of middle ground that I could have covered, but instead my brain goes to seduce your way into making them quiet or just burn the place to the ground. I like black or white. That's it. I'm working on my living in the gray. You guys know that. But I don't know if I told you this like 6 months ago, maybe, or I don't know. Time isn't real. We're all on the same page, right? That like yesterday feels like 100 years ago and also seconds ago. Like time is so weird in this fucking pandemic. Every day it's just like new. I don't know, man. I am doing my best to just stay positive. I do have a lot of people who are really, I want to talk about positivity a bunch in this podcast too this week. But I have people that aren't, with the state of the world and how fucked up it is. And I've just sort of shifted to how can I help instead of just like, because we can't do anything. We're here. We're stuck here. You know what I mean? Like this is like we can bitch or we can try and change something. But anyway, so I don't know if it was 6 months ago. It could have been 2 weeks ago. I know it wasn't 2 weeks ago. It was like before the holidays. So before the holidays, the loud neighbors, the feds fucking ransacked their place and then they all left and we think they went to jail. And then my neighbor went down and found, found like, I'm going to say 500 needles in their recycle bin. Now, I don't think that if you're getting rid of drugs, you don't typically just throw them in your recycle bin as the feds are coming in. And also the feds don't just like throw those away, but that's still fucking sketch, right? And now the place is up for sale, but now there's just like constant construction going on. So all morning there's been a fucking jackhammer, which is, I have a couple of auditions to record and this. And it's like, I understand we live in a big city. I get that. It's just, I feel like construction should all be done at once, 1 day a week, right? Like, it's like, okay, well, on Thursdays, the city is just really loud because that's when everyone does construction. So get your shit done. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's just like there's a lot of people that work from home and I do a lot of voiceover. I'm working on doing a lot of voiceover work. It's, slowly coming in and stuff, but like I need a quiet room and just like a jackhammer going on from like, I don't know, it's noon now. It's been going on since 8:30 this morning. And it's just, these aren't real problems. I understand. But wild, right? I don't know. And I know we could like look up what happened. Like you could like, I'm not good at Googling. I know that I come from the generation that Google like started Google. And I should be really good at Googling, but I can Google some stuff. Obviously I can go like easy stuff, but when people are like, oh, you can find a news article by putting, the address and quotation marks plus, drug bust and other quotation marks. I think that's how you do it. I have no idea, man. I have no idea. I'm headed to San Diego after this. The events that have transpired this week, I don't know. I'm going to just be really honest. I feel like the more honest I am in this, the better I am off. And then also every time I share something that's not so pretty about myself, I get some messages that are like, oh my God, I also do that. Or like, you're not alone. Like my quest is just to make the, humans not feel so isolated that we do. We feel so isolated in these like things. And so you guys know the guy from Washington that this whole podcast could be like the B story is like, my love note to him. Not really. I think I'm done. I think I'm done. Last week I was, I was like, maybe trying to get closure because I haven't been able to let this person go. No matter how many like dudes have come into my life, right? There's like 2 dudes right now that, not in like a two-timey way or not anything serious, but like 2 potential dudes that are lovely and funny and very hot, like uncomfortably hot. And I'm still hung up on this guy that I've never met. And so I added him back, and then we talked all last week, and it was like, all right, well, we're going to talk on the phone or Zoom and just like, have some kind of closure. And he's in San Diego this week. And crazy. I can't believe I'm saying all this out loud. Or I can't, I can believe it, but I can't fucking believe it. So he's in San Diego right now. He tells me on Monday he's going to be in San Diego all week. And I was like, all right, well, I'll drive down. Let's meet. Let's finally fucking meet. And he's like, well, I don't know, like, it's like, what are you hiding, man? Like, what are you fucking hiding? But he was like, I don't know, you'll be doing more driving than we'll actually be able to hang out because I'll be just working in a hotel room the whole time, right? Which I believe that. But I was just like, honestly, man, I almost don't care. Like, this is so crazy. This has been going on and off for 2 years. And I think just meeting you, I was like, honestly, dude, I don't care. And he's like, well, I don't know. And he goes, because he, in our talks, if you remember, he was supposed to move to Los Angeles, and that was when we were supposed to be together. And when we talked last week, he has moved further north, and it is permanent. And in those, as much as I've already told you I have a hard time letting this go, but I think in the back of my mind, I thought, well, if when he moves to LA, because he said, the last time we spoke, it was like, yeah, it's just going to be a little bit longer, and I don't want you to wait for me. In the back of my mind, I always thought, well, he'll live in LA one day, and maybe we'll meet. Maybe this thing will actually come to fruition, or maybe there really is something here. You know what I mean? And so last week he told me he was never moving here, and that, moving further north, like north, like south of, like barely south of the Canadian border, and at like a small town. We're just different people, and I'm wow. We're different people. He saw the state of the world, and he was like, I'm going to just move to a small town and just stay away from it all. And that's fine. And I see the state of the world, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to go back to school and run for public office. More on that later. Don't tell, as I've said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas. Don't tell people shit you want to do that aren't safe. You know what I mean? I told someone in my life recently that I wanted to run for office in 10 years. And he said, you'll be really old by then. And I was like, well, 50 is not old, but okay. And then he like doubled down. It was like, yeah, this generation's wiping you guys out. We don't want you anymore. We want young. And I was like, well, I don't really look that old. And also I'm very progressive, whatever. So then I'm like defending my dream or whatever. And he's like, and then I was just like, you know what? I just went, okay. And this guy is always like, his one goal is just to like we'll get back to Seattle, don't worry, but his one goal is to like get under my skin. Like, I think he does it. I don't think it's personal. I think he does it to everybody. That's why he has a hard time with relationships. But his one goal is just like get under people's skin and like fuck with them. And so I just didn't pick up the rope this time. I just went, okay. And he was like, well, you don't have to get so fucking defensive. And I was like, I didn't get defensive. I just said, okay. And he goes, well, you sound defensive. And I'm like, well, I'm not. And he goes, well, you are. And I'm like, no, I'm just, if you told me something that you wanted to do with your life, and I just said something like, oh, you're too old, it's just not very nice. And I'm just not going to argue with you. It's just not a nice thing to say or do. And he was like, well, I wouldn't take you seriously. And I was just like, okay. And then he's like, I'm going to get off the phone. And he hung up on me. So just like, that is why when I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, like why my circle is so small now, and why I only talk to people that I want to do like this stuff with very few people, because people shit on stuff that they can't, like, I don't know how to, I used to work at this phone room years and years ago when I first moved to Los Angeles. It was a wild place. I don't know if I've ever told you guys about this. It was like a room full of has-beens and wannabes, right? Like, it was just like, my boss was Pee-wee from Porky's, like I hope you're all keeping up. Don't worry. I am going to San Diego, not to see that guy, but so we'll get back to Seattle in a little bit, but we're off and running on this one. Pee-wee from Porky's. And it's like an 80s movie. He was like basically like the Stifler of the 80s, right? That literal guy was our boss. And he was so, I had a really hard relationship with him because I had, massive authority figure dad issues. So I was just like terrified of him. And now as an adult, like I went back to like visit later when I had like had some successes under my belt, and he treated me completely different. And it was just so weird. Cause like, and then he liked that he had intimidated me, but he talked to, he would talk to this guy I used to sit next to, like, I bet you're fucking that, right? Which is so creepy because like his daughter was my age. It was just so fucking creepy. But I used to work at this phone room, and just, people that were like me, bright-eyed, 21, fresh off the bus from wherever they were from, and then people that had some successes. Like there were many people in that room who had like one-hit wonders and then blew all their money on drugs, and now they're working in a phone room. There's a woman who I saw the other day hiking around with my buddy Whitney. She was in that phone room, and she would work. There was a lot of people who also were like working in that room just in between acting jobs. And this bitch has been in everything, like everything. And just seeing her walking around the hills, I'm like, oh man, like everything. Like she was like Road to Perdition. I just like all the movie. I still see her now. Breaking Bad. She's like she's like a character actress that's just been in everything. But so I was working in this phone room years ago. Oh my God, I lost my train of thought. Oh, brain fog. Phone room years ago. It'll come back to me. Oh my God, what if it doesn't? Oh my God. It's so interesting. My cousin had COVID, and she relates to the brain fog, and a few people have tagged me into stuff. So I'm glad that I'm not the only one, but people, it's such a weird feeling to be, my part of my brand is I'm able to fucking talk about 52 subjects at once and then tie them all together at the end. And then sometimes my brain just goes blank. It'll come back to me. Working in a phone room years ago, sketchy phone room. I don't know, man. But so, oh my God, it's going to bother me. It came back to me. I had to pause the recording, sit for a minute, listen a little bit, and now it's back to me. So back to like it like telling people when you have dreams or like big goals that like most of the population doesn't have the guts to do that kind of stuff, right? And I don't mean that in a shitty way, like you don't have the guts, but I just mean like most people know what they know from their environment. Like, like Los Angeles is full of people that like saw something bigger than their hometown, and we're all like, we're all the island of broken toys, but really we're the island of people who just like see bigger visions, I feel like, or even New York too. But so I worked at this phone room years ago, and we made very little money. The hours were, the hours were fine, but like and we compared it to prison. Like literally, like we called it the row. We all had a crew. They used to time us when we went to the bathroom. We had to they would listen to our calls. Like it was just a really fucked up environment, but it was my first job. And I didn't know that I could get a waitressing job and that would be so much better. But so I went to go work I started looking for another job, being like, oh, there's gotta be more than this, right? Like there's gotta be more to it than me, barely skirting by when I know all these people, whatever. So I found the job at the bank, and I came back to work, and all of these people at work were like, what's it like out there? What's the other job like? Like it was just such a weird, like, because they couldn't see past leaving this comfort job, even though the job wasn't like the devil is better than the devil that you don't know. And so I don't know if my point is coming across, but it's just like in my experience, and this person that I talked to about running for office is a family member, and I keep going to this is one of my rules in like episode 40 or something, my 15 rules. I keep going to the hardware store for milk. Like I keep telling people like this, this one family member who's, not typically the most supportive person, and I don't think it's personal. And, but I keep going to places like that, hoping that they'll give me encouragement, praise, and like support when they just don't have it in them. Like it's not personal. Like I'm not the only one they do this to, I don't think. But like it's like going to the hardware store for milk. And also in my ACA program, it's called the inner drugstore. Like you're used to chaos and shit behavior. So if you can't, you like return to places that are chaotic or, give you shitty responses or behavior because you're more comfortable with that kind of behavior than you are with love and support and back to Seattle, because that's what I'm doing. I have this one guy who's I don't know, we'll see. I've known him a long time and we're supposed to hang out soon. And he's really funny and on the right side of history and super handsome. And I'm sitting here obsessed over a guy that has never shown up for me, has never, ever shown up for me. And so last week I was really sad when he was like, yeah, that's it. I'm, this is where I'm staying and this is the life I want. And it was just like, man, 2 years. The comfort I have in that is I learned a lot in this, not a relationship. And I also, it wasn't 2 solid years, at least it wasn't just like, there was like 9-month breaks in between. Jesus fucking Christ. But so he said he was coming out to San Diego this week and that I'd be driving more than I would see him. And I was just like, I almost don't care. And I was like, aren't you curious at all to see if this really was ever real? And he didn't respond for a long time. And like, I don't know, like 7 hours. And I was like, you know what, man, message received. And then immediately he responds. And this is what he does. It's like, as soon as I drop the rope, he's like, no, leave. And God, I fall for it every time. And he's like, no, it's not. He's like, of course I'm curious. I just don't see what the point of meeting, because nothing can come from it. And I was like, does anything have to come from it? Like, what if we just got some kind of closure? He talks about how his buddy can't let go of, he'll date somebody and then like they break up and he can't let go of them for, months, and he like bitches about it. And I'm like, you and I haven't been able to let go of each other for 2 years. Whether it's me that can't let go and you've been you've been on the other side of not being able to let me go, like it is just. And so I was just like, look, I don't think anything, just closure. And he, hearted it or whatever. And I was like, just think about it. I could drive down there. We can have dinner, meet, no pressure. If it feels right, I'll stay. If it doesn't feel right, I'll go home. And, maybe we'll laugh and maybe we'll be able to just finally say fucking goodbye, or maybe we'll have like, I don't know, in my brain, I have a person that I talk about a lot. He was my first love. In my brain, that's what this could be, like we have this wild connection and maybe we're just supposed to care about each other from afar and have coffee every couple of years and hope the other one's doing well. And you know what I mean? Like, I think that that's lovely, but it's not going to happen. And so on Monday night, I text him. He was, flying to San Diego. And I was like, I was like, so what are your thoughts? And he said, I definitely want to meet you, but I need to meditate to see if it's a good thing for me or not. And that is the last time I heard from him. I was like, and so I reached out to my buddy. This is the good news from this. I've been trying to go down to see my buddy Ali, who I've talked about a ton on this podcast. And I finally get to meet his baby, who's like 9 now. He's not 9, he's like 3, but still, I've never met the baby because of COVID, right? And so I reached out to him and I was just like, hey, I might have night plans, but I'm coming to San Diego. Or I wanted to come to San Diego. I have night plans possibly. I don't know if they're not, whatever. I sound like such a crazy person. I feel so crazy. And that's what people like this guy do to sane people. I know I'm not. No, I'm sane, dude. But this is what, this kind of behavior does to sane people. The non-crazy person looks crazy, but this like guy back and forth for years. And so my, Ali was like, yeah, absolutely come. And then this morning, and he's like, and you can stay here and stay the night. And this morning I texted him and I was like, the plans fell through. Should I still come? And he's like, absolutely. And now I get to go see my friend Ali. And I think that's the closure every time. Whew. I mean, I act like I'm not going to cry on the fucking podcast. I've cried a billion times on this podcast. Every single time we get close to meeting or we get close in general, this guy disappears for 2 years now. And expecting anything different would make me a crazy person. So I'm going to drop the rope and I'm going to figure out how to let this person go. I've tried a lot. I've tried everything, and but I have not tried just doing nothing. So I'm just going to do nothing. And I'm going to drive to San Diego and I'm going to see one of my best friends in the world. One of my best friends in the world who honestly will be perfect for this situation. And always, I haven't felt on stable ground in a long time. As you know, my uncle passed away, and I'm going to the funeral in 2 weeks. A lot of my family has, part of my family has had to drop out because Omicron is so rampant right now. And, you know, they're older, around older people or children, and that's completely understandable. But I haven't been on solid ground in a while, and seeing Ali grounds me, always has. I've known him since I was 22. God, that's so long. It's almost 20 years, man. And it always grounds me. And so, you know, the bright side, silver lining, I've been, you know, we've been talking about me coming down there for a while now since shit's opened up and Henry had his surgery and I can leave him for a night, you know. So I'm headed to San Diego. Oh, wish me luck. And also wish me luck. That's it. I dropped the rope. I am dropping the rope. God, I've blocked this guy. I might tell him to fuck off. I haven't done the anger thing that is just like, you're a cunt. You're a fucking cunt. And I know, I mean, I just think he's just a confused, lost guy, or he's an asshole. Some people are like, no, I think sometimes people are just dicks. And I've seen glimpses of, I think it's just a scared little boy who has avoidant tendencies and is not a well person. Yeah, just not a well person. And I've done everything I can. I almost just quoted a John Mayer song. That's really embarrassing. I was reminded of the story. So the other day I was at a job and I was talking to I was telling, we were talking about Mexico. I don't know if I've ever told you guys this, but I once accidentally drove to Mexico. And I know if I haven't told this, I don't, you guys know I'm a smart person. I'm a smart person. And this is probably the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. I was leaving Ali in San Diego. And I understand the ocean was on the wrong side and I didn't notice it. I was hungover, first of all. And this is like 10 years ago. I was hungover. And I was just driving back to LA and I kept thinking, man, I'm making the best time ever. I'm making such good time, you know, like, yeah. And the next thing I know, I see welcome to Mexico. And I'm like, oh no. And there's not really a place to like turn around except for inside of Mexico. The medium is like covered up by like, you know, like a big cement barrier or whatever. And so I went into Mexico and I thank God I had my passport because my wallet was stolen or something happened to my ID. So I had my passport. So I went into Mexico and then I drove around and got out the exit. And the officer, I accidentally pocket dialed my boss at the time, which is so embarrassing. So I heard the whole thing. And the officer was like, well, look, the top three things people smuggle out of Mexico are drugs, Mexicans, and cans. And he's like, cans because they're like currency in the US, right? And I don't know that, I never questioned that. And I don't know if he was just kidding, but I happen to have 6. I never looked into it. And people are always like, really? But it sounds reasonable, right? It sounds like, oh, okay. But at the time, my apartment building didn't have a recycle bin. So I used to hoard, like, I'd shove the cans in my trunk until my trunk was full of big plastic bags full of cans. And then I give them to my bar back, right? And so I had a full trunk of cans and they had to search my vehicle because obviously the story is really stupid. I just accidentally, like, that's a total drug mule story, right? Like, just send a pretty girl in and pretend she accidentally drove to Mexico. And so he had to search my car and he pops the trunk and there's like 6 bags of cans. And I was like, those aren't mine, officer. Thank God he ended up believing me. He was just like, you know what? Your story is so fucking stupid that there's no way that someone made this up. And I was like, all right. I get in my car and he's like, all right, now you're just going to go straight on this freeway and not. And I'm like, I get it. I know how to get to LA. It was really embarrassing. I have a picture of the border of Mexico. Somewhere, I don't know if I have it anymore. I think it's somewhere on my Instagram. You can go back like 9 years or whenever Instagram first became a thing. But I'm excited. I will tell you honestly, I went to bed last night and was like, well, I really want to go see Ali. And I have a 23% hope that this guy will call me and we'll meet. And now I'm telling you, I've dropped the rope. I have dropped the rope. I don't and even if he did reach out at this point, unless he was like in jail or the hospital or some shit, like had like a real excuse for not responding to me for the last 48 hours, I'm dropping the rope. I don't know how I'm going to let this human go. And I feel like a crazy person because you guys have heard the story for the last 2 years. But I'm going to attempt to actually move forward. So this will be the last time we talk about this guy because the more I talk about it, the more people are like, oh, but what if, maybe, what if? And it's like, no, there's just none there. I think the big thing I have to do is grieve the fact that this has been a 2-year relationship, not a relationship, but like grieve the lost time. I think, and I told him I thought I owed him an amends, and I thought I did because I thought that, I had written him an amends in my step 9. And I thought, and if you don't know, I'm, 12 step, and step 8 is you make a list of all the people you'd harmed. And step 9, you make amends to those people, unless to do so would do harm to you or others. Right. And so I wrote him a letter because I thought, reaching out to him would do harm to me. And so then, when we talked last week, I was like, I'd like to make you an amends. And he was like, I don't feel like you owe me one, but I don't want to disrupt your process. Cause he knows 12 steps. And he's like, if you feel like you need it, then I will be here to listen. I'll make time. And I was like, okay, thank you. And now I'm grateful because I don't owe the amends to him. I owe the amends to myself. I need to forgive myself for going back as many times as I have, for how, for accepting this completely ludicrous and unacceptable, just disrespectful, shitty behavior. Like, it'd be almost better if this guy, it would be nicer and more humane if this guy would just humane, so dramatic. But if this guy just texted me and said, fuck off, I never want to talk to you again, then this, like, but that's what, people who are avoidant do. As soon as he starts to lose me, he's always been like, wait. But it's like, I want something better than this, and I deserve something better than this. And I don't owe him the amends. I owe myself the amends, and grieving it, just grieving the lost time. Luckily, it happened in a pandemic. So most of the time we were seeing each other, we would have been seeing each other the way we saw each other, which was over Zoom, because that's how people dated, in 2020. And luckily it was like, not that I wasn't like turning down a bunch of dudes left and right, because I wasn't going anywhere, so I wasn't meeting anybody. So luckily I didn't, and I still went on dates. So I didn't waste too much time. And I wrote a book. He's in the book, by the way. He's the chapter, I Am a Fraud. I think that's what the chapter is called. And he did it to me. That chapter he has done to me now 3 times. And this time doesn't even count. He's just, I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter. What matters is just healing and moving forward and focusing on myself. Yeah. So the positivity that I wanted to talk about, it's just so, the more I'm around in this human form, I believe that, dude. I don't believe, like, when people are like, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. We're not humans having a spirit. You know what I like? And so I think I'm just using this body for now while I have this human experience. And that's why I refer to us as humans and human beings. And it does make me look like an alien or crazy, unless you are in the same camp as me spiritual wise. But I keep seeing how the, manifestation and laws of attraction really work. As I said, New Year's Day, I don't know if I told you guys this last week because I didn't erase it off my list. So I imagine I haven't told you about it. But we'll see. But I bartended this rave on last week, and I work for this company, and we do these events, and it's so funny. Every bar I've ever been placed in this company. I usually make good money and the same amount of money. But there are people who are literally like adult people. They'll be like, all right, you 7 are at bar 5. And adult people will sprint to the bar to get a good spot. Sprint. And I'm like, I feel like it all comes out in the wash. And I found out one girl who was sprinting, she made $100 more than I did at the last rave. And I was like, yeah, my like not fighting someone, like, and then other people will literally pick fights with people. Like this guy was telling me he was at his bar and this girl parked next to him. And then this guy wanted to be at his bar and came up to him and was like, dude, I want that bar. Can we switch? And my buddy was like, oh no, I picked this bar. So I like this. I'm happy where I'm already set up. Like you also have to do this whole setup thing. He's like, I'm already set up. I don't want to move. And the guy goes, who wants to bartend next to his girlfriend or whoever, like slams down his bag and goes, dude, I'm bartending here. You're either going to move or we're going to have a problem. Tried to fight him over a fucking bar spot. And also like, I don't know. So the guy was just like, whatever. And like, let him have the bar spot. And so this last rave, I was bartending not in the best place, and I still haven't gotten my money yet, but I never stopped bartending all night. So I did all right, there was never a lull or anything. It was just, all night. And, so I'm assuming I did well. And so this guy gets moved next to me, right? And he comes over, he's so angry and so negative. And he comes over and he's like, so he's in between me and another guy. Me and the other guy had kind of been talking a little bit, not like really talking that much, but the other guy seemed all right. So the guy that got moved, he goes, I'm not happy about moving here. I was bartending next to my girlfriend. And so they moved me here and I'm really mad about it. You guys better be cool. And an adult person, this guy was like in his 40s. And the other guy was like, I don't know. And then he looked at me and I go, oh, I am not cool. Like at all. Like I'm not cool. And he's like, oh, at least you're funny. And I was like, all right, well, we're going to bartend next to each other. And you, sir, are going to see how very uncool I am. And he was nice and we got along. And like, every time more we talked, I was like, see, I'm not cool. Cause we talk about like nerdy, like I talk about nerdy shit and he's like, what's that? But he seemed nice, but he was just so negative about the money, right? So negative about the money. And he's like, these fucking people aren't tipping me and fuck these people and blah, blah, blah. And like, I'm just so mad I had to move. And I was like, I don't know. And I was like, oh, literally everyone that is coming to my bar is tipping me well over 20%. Everybody. And it's like a rave. So the drinks are like astronomically expensive. And it was just so funny. We're doing the exact same thing at the exact same place in the exact same spot. And I believe my positive attitude is why I fucking got. And then he also said, it's so funny. So years ago when I worked at Big Wings, I used to say this a lot. And I was like, I don't know, I was like 25 to like 29. And I would just be like, I don't really care about any of the drama. Just don't fuck with my money. And I was friends with this bouncer. And I'd always say that to him. I'm like, that's the only thing I fucking care about. Just don't fuck with my money. And he's like, do you know how trashy you sound when you say shit like that? Like, I don't care. I'll fight a bitch for my money. And I was like, no, it's how I pay my bills. And I like justified being this mean girl who was like, don't fuck with my money. When, by the way, I always did fine. Look at me. I'm fine now. You know what I mean? It always fucking works out. And then this guy, New Year's Day just kept saying, don't fuck with my money. And I remember Justin the bouncer and I was like, dude, he was right. You do sound pretty trashy and like ratchet and like much more like, he's like, I'm a gangster. No, fuck off. Right. It was just, but like, I'm just learning more and more that like, your attitude and your perspective of shit. And today I could be really sad, and be like, I don't even have like the anxiety of, is he going to call? I've stopped checking my phone to see if he's read the message or if he's going to call me back or whatever. The anxiety is gone. Cause like I'm putting down the rope. I am putting down the fucking rope. Oh gosh. So I wrote this down too. So how I do this is like throughout the week, I just like write notes of stuff that happens so I can remember to talk about it on here. Last week I had a job last week, I think it was, and there was a girl that clambered onto me, not clambered on, like when you do these random ass jobs, I was basically a glorified extra. I try not, like sometimes I make friends and then sometimes I don't. Cause sometimes when you make friends, you end up with some random weirdo all day. But this girl is fine. she was fine. I'll tell you a story about being an extra years and years ago, which like after that, I was like, nope, I don't want to make friends because it was one of the most horrifying things that has ever happened to me in my life. I'll get to that. But this girl, so she was very nice. And like, so we like, but she had perfectly straight teeth. So it's still confusing how this happened. We had 3 meals together. It was a long day, 3 meals together. And she talked through the entire meal with her mouth full, and her teeth are straight. So there's no place for like food to just that much food to get into her teeth. You know what I mean? Like, I know that food gets into teeth, but I mean, like, all of her teeth were covered in the food. She was talking with her mouth open and non-stop talking. I didn't eat all day. Every single time I tried to eat, I was like, oh my God, I think I'm going to be sick. Like, because it was just like what I was eating was like open in her mouth, chewed while she's laughing and it's in her teeth. And I'm like thinking about it right now. And I wrote that down because like, I am terrified of being that person and not knowing it. You know what I mean? Like, how does she not know? How has someone somewhere along the way not been like, Coral, chew with your fucking mouth closed? How? Like, it goes back to the whole bad breath thing. I'm terrified of having bad breath. I know, everyone knows like 3 or 4 people that just consistently have really bad breath. And I guess, what do you say? Hey, yo, but I'm like terrified. And I always talk to my buddy Whitney about this. I talk about Whitney a lot in here. I'm always just like, hey, if ever that is me, like if my breath starts to just smell all the time, or like I chew, if I eat disgustingly, or like I stink, like something, please be a dear enough friend to be like, you got to do something. That is my biggest fear in life. I mean, you guys know about Julie Grego when I was like when I was like 10, 3rd grade, 4th grade, whatever it was. She and I were sitting, she was my best friend, and she and I were sitting in my backyard, and we were both talking about bad breath and how we were always scared we'd have it. And so we decided to smell each other's breath. And so I smell her breath and it smells nothing, right? It's like, oh, your breath doesn't smell like anything. And then she smells my breath and she goes, kind of smells like milk. I was 10. Of course it smelled like milk. My dad used to make me drink milk at every meal, which now looking back, like I didn't think it was that weird until I became an adult. And all of my childhood friends were like, yeah, none of our parents made us do that. We drank so much milk at your house. And I don't drink milk now. And I don't really do dairy often. But my bones, my nails, and my hair and teeth are so strong. Like I have fantastic hair, and I think, I don't know if your hair is part of that, but get calcium. But I'm going to throw it in there. But like, thank you, Tom Kral, for forcing me to drink milk all the time. But Julie Grego told me my breath smelled like milk. And I've thought about it every day since that day when I was 10 years old. Every day. I even recently tried to find all of her family on Facebook. They are not interested in being my friend. I added them all. They all declined. I also haven't seen any of them in like 25 years. And so that maybe they're like, who is this? I don't know. We have no mutual friends, but I just wanted to see how everyone was doing. But yeah, Julie Grego. But I'm just terrified of being that person. And this girl just seemed to not know. Guys, it was one of the grossest things I've seen in years, all over her teeth. It happened in the morning. And I was just like, oh, I've definitely lost my appetite. Why doesn't she just like finish swallowing and then talk? Like I talk a lot. So I'll just like not eat the meal until I'm done talking. And then usually everyone's all done with their food. And I'm like, fuck, I've been talking this whole time. It's way better than eating and talking with your mouth. It was wild. I'm going to think about it for a really long time. A really long time. I don't know. I feel like I'm at a crossroads right now. I have to tell you the grossest. I feel like I'm at a crossroads right now. I'll tell you about the grossest extra story that's ever happened to me in a minute, but I just feel like I just feel not a crossroads. That's wrong. But I feel like I'm fine. I mean, obviously I'm not fine. I'm very sad. I'm grieving my uncle, but it's not linear. Sometimes I forget why I'm so sad. I'm just like crying over everything. And then I'm like, why am I so sad? Oh, because a guy who was like my dad just died. And not even a month ago. It'll be a month in like 4 days. And the funeral's in 2 weeks. So like I'm trying to be easy on myself about that. But I feel like I'm at one of those points where I don't know if any, and I'm done saying, I don't know if you've experienced this before. If you're still listening to me, you probably have, or you understand what I'm saying. Um, I, I'm at a bottom. You know what I mean? I'm at bottom of everything. Like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just putting one foot in front of the other every day. I can't seem to shake a guy who I've never met and does not treat me very well. Um, Everybody that raised me has passed away. I'm I'm not jobless, but I'm jobless. It just like every week it's like, all right, how am I going to make money this week? And it's really scary. I just feel like I am walking on a tightrope with no net and I'm falling. And that sounds so dramatic. I am not dramatic. It sounds really dramatic, but it is, but I know that every time I've ever felt this way, like here's the hope of it. Every time I have ever felt this way, I something really, really great comes on the other end of it. When you get to the bottom of everything and when you let go, like I said, drop the fucking rope, not just with Seattle, but with all of it, with my family member who just consistently needs to like put me down or give me a hard time, no matter, it just with all at the bottom of all of it, where I am like, dipping into savings because jobs keep getting canceled because of Omicron, but our government isn't seeming to care that people aren't able to work as much as they were. It's just like all of it. I know that something really powerful is on the other side of this. It's just you got to go through that shitty part first to get through it. You know what I mean? Like there's that saying, if you're going through hell, keep going. Don't stop in the middle of hell, keep going. And I'm fine and I'm grateful. And I'm grateful that I have enough experience under my belt that I know that nothing lasts forever, Like there's a saying, I think I'm going to quote John Mayer again. God, what the fuck is that about? I'm not even a John Mayer fan. I'm not a fan. I'm just not a fan. I'm not like I've like the song I was going to quote about Seattle earlier, where it was like there's a song where it's like I've done all I can. I've stood on the steps with my heart in my hand, and I'm starting to see it has nothing to do with me. And that's what I keep thinking about Seattle. I'm like, this has nothing. This guy doing this to me has nothing to do with me. It's like someone doesn't like, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like someone doesn't treat people that way because of the people. They do it because they're fucked up inside. And I can let him go now. The other John Mayer quote I was going to do, I think he was just like, if you're happy right now, if you're not happy right now, don't worry, nothing lasts forever. And if you're happy right now, enjoy it because nothing lasts forever. And like, that's the thing. Like, it's just like this too shall pass, everything, the ebbs and flows. And I was talking to my dear friend a couple of weeks ago, and we're talking about my uncle and the COVID, and I had COVID at the time, and I was really tired and really it just I lost a bunch of jobs because of me having COVID and then other people having COVID, like the whole thing. And it's just part of the journey, man. It's just part of the journey. And so right now I'm in the is it ebb? I think the flow is the good part. Ebb, flow. I don't know. I'm in that part of it, and it's the bottom of everything. And I know I'll climb back out of this. I always do. And I know I'll let go of this guy and just drop the rope. Just drop the fucking rope. Whew. I'm glad that they're quiet outside. I'm glad. It's just so wild. It's so wild. So the extra story, I'm going to tell you the extra story. If you're dying to hear it, it's so gross. It's so gross. It's so I was 25 years old. I was working as an extra. I have no idea what movie it was or what show it was. I was working as an extra, and my boyfriend, who had lived in New York, had just broken up with me. He's in the book. Hey there, Josh Norton. And I was devastated. And I got there, and this girl, I was like 25 or 26. So she seemed like eons younger than me. So she could have been, I don't know. She could have been, she's probably like 22, but she sits down next to me and she's like, hi. And she seems somewhat normal. And, as we're talking throughout the day, I'm telling her about my breakup. And she's one of those people, like, not a one upper, but someone who, like, I don't know if I'm positive everyone has experienced this. You're talking to someone, and be it a stranger or not, you're talking to them and you're telling them a story, and they somehow have exactly the same story you have, except for a little bit worse or a little bit better. But it's not one upping. It's like they're like making it up. Like you can tell they're making it up. Like you're like, well, I went to Cabo and I met this guy and we had mojitos. It's like, well, I went to Cabo and I met three guys and we had, what I mean? Like, and it's not a one upper because it's like clearly not the truth. And so all day, this girl, everything I'm saying, and I'm in school at the time. So everything I'm saying and doing, she's like one upping, but also you can tell it's like not real. Right. And you can tell it's also that she wants me to like her. And it's not her she's not weird. She just wants me to like her. So it's, and I think we've all experienced this. I've experienced it a couple of times in my life. And so whatever. And I'm just so sad that I don't even care. Like I'm just like, whatever. Like I'm so heartbroken. And I remember that day I told both of my parents about the breakup. And because I was really sad, and they were both in my life still at the time, and they didn't know about my boyfriend because well, you've listened to the podcast. You don't tell those two people anything. They don't care about anything, but they didn't. They only thought about themselves when it came to everything. And so I told both of them on the phone that day because I'd been MIA and they were calling and calling and calling and like worried and why aren't you responding to us? And it was just because I was really sad. So I called both of them and I'm devastated over the breakup. And I tell my dad, and my dad gets really, really angry at me because I didn't tell him I had a boyfriend. I mean, like irrationally angry. He might have even hung up on me. He was so angry. And I was like, well, I'm very devastated. And then my mom started to cry because she was so sad that she lost this guy. So sad. And I was like, but you'd never met him. And she's like, I know. I just feel like I'm just so heartbroken because I can't believe he left you. And she made it all about her heartbreak somehow. It was so weird. So it was just such a weird day to begin with. So I normally, if someone was bothering me that much as an expert, like I'm really good at being like, hey, I'm just going to read my book. So see you around. But I, whatever. I was just so broken, and my parents were whatever those two people were doing with whatever their thought processes were with that. And then we never spoke of this guy ever again, by the way. Neither one. Oh, my dad, one time I was home and this guy who I call Josh Norton in the book calls me and won't stop calling me. We're at like my godparents' house and my phone keeps ringing. And my dad goes, that's the guy. And I was like, yeah, he's just calling. I'll call him another time. And he's like, he won't stop calling you. And I was like, no. He goes, wow, boy won't stop calling you. Boy still loves you. Boy. I think about that all the time. Just boy still loves you. But again, it wasn't like a dad, like, oh, honey, that means he still has feelings. It was like a jealous boyfriend. That relationship, I think I can go to 25 years of therapy and 12 steps. And I finally just accepted that relationship it was what it was, and it's over, and I'm better for being over and whatever. But so this girl, that's a weird point to put in there, but I'm just saying, like, the more I unravel about my dad and I's relationship, the more I'm like, man, that was way more fucked up than I even thought. Oh my god, how could it get even more fucked up? So this girl and I, we go to the bathroom, right? Well, I go to the bathroom and she's like, I gotta go to the bathroom too. And I was like, all right. So we go into the bathroom. It's just her and I. There's stalls. And I pee and she pees and she's like, oh my God, I started my period. And I was like, oh man. She's like, do you have anything? And honestly, because of what transpired next, I do not remember if I had anything. I cannot tell you if so we'll say, yes, I did. I gave her a tampon, right? And so she's like, thank you so much. And then she walks out of the stall holding the bloodiest underwear I've ever seen in my life in her hands. And she starts rinsing them in the sink on a studio lot in a room that anyone could walk into. It's not like we were like in a single bathroom with a door lock. Like she's like scrubbing her underwear and I'm like, I better go. And she's like, no, stay here with me. And I don't know. I can't tell you why. I was like, okay. So I sat there watching the stranger clean her own blood out, not, period blood out of her underwear on a studio lot in the middle of like a Tuesday afternoon in front of a stranger. Like it was just no big deal. And then if you've ever had that happen, it doesn't always get out very easily. Like you have to like soak it. You got to like do, there's some methods that you got to go. And so it took a while and then she was done. And then she so it still had a little bit of a stain to it, like, right? Like it still had a little bit of a, and so then she hung it around her purse to dry. And I was like, oh, you're going to walk out with your period underwear just hanging on your purse and not inside your purse? She's like, well, how are they supposed to dry? I was like, I don't know, but I feel like I'm embarrassed to be around walking with the girl with the period underwear everywhere. I never saw that girl again. Couldn't figure out of a lineup, but I think about that once a week. Part of me is like, you gotta kind of admire the like zero fucks, and then the other part of me is like, no, you sometimes you should have some fucks, right? You should have some fucks, not like the girl with the teeth, like food in her teeth. You should have some fucks, not necessarily zero, but you should have some fucks, right? I think that's the episode. So here's the poop scoop for the week. Here's the poop scoop. So remember the guy that started my sexual revolution? Which, by the way, I have a few new Patreon. I gotta stop hitting this microphone. I keep unplugging it. I have a few new Patreon subscribers, and I have decided that I am gonna do the sexual revolution exclusive on Patreon, where I talk about my dating, like that way I can be much more free, because I know some of these guys may start listening to this and but I've decided it's going to come out the 15th of every month. That way there's absolutely 2 bonus episodes you get every month, and it's better for me to be on a schedule. Like I have Wednesdays, right? So the 15th of every month, if you're a Patreon subscriber, you'll get an episode of the Sexual Revolution 2022. And so thank you for joining the Patreon. And then also the first of the month, I have a podcast with Jeff May, comedian Jeff May. Fine, we have a podcast. And it's really fun to just, banter with him. We have great banter. He's a funny dude. So if you want to join, go to kimkral.com or patreon.com/kimkral. And there's many levels. And we're getting it rolling. Finally, a year later, I'm finally up and rolling. All of your Patreon shit is halfway in the mail. I'm waiting on one more thing to mail. I have a little like thank you bag for people who joined. I'm halfway done. I'm waiting for one more thing to put in there. And then, so I'm 1 year later, I'm finally, the Patreon is up and going. But if you want to join, patreon.com/kimkral. So every month on the 15th, I will release the Sexual Revolution of 2022, Kim Kral's. If you want to join, you get to hear all about that. But the guy who started the whole thing, he is a writer, and we both wrote a book. And the other night we were texting, and I was like, I was like, oh, I really want to read something you wrote. He's like, you mean besides my book? And I was like, I don't know. I feel like it goes against what we have for me to read your book. And he goes, well, my book, your book, my book, as you guys know, Confessions of a Recovering Party Girl, which you can also get at kimkral.com. I have signed copies left. He was like, well, your book is already in my Amazon cart. And I was like, what? And then I almost felt more vulnerable, because there's a lot of like someone that I'm sleeping with or dating. I don't know how bad I want them to read my book, because it's very vulnerable, and it is a lot. And, they're wild stories, but there's some gross stories. And then there's also stories in there about like how he put up with a bunch of bullshit for like a decade, currently putting up with a bunch of bullshit. Again, it's over. We're dropping the rope. And so I decided to start reading the book again. I haven't read it, since I released it, like, 7 months ago. And I don't know so this is the poop scoop, and I'm out of poop scoops, guys. I mean, I almost pooped my pants in my apartment the other day, yesterday, I think it was. I don't know. I don't even know how that happens. You're just sitting there, and then all of a sudden you're about to shart, and you're like, what the fuck? You can poop your pants outside of your home, but I feel like it's almost more embarrassing if you're like right by your toilet. I feel like when there's an emergency and it just happens, I don't know. I think about this all the time. But so I'm reading it, and why did I make the very first chapter? I'm not proud of this, but I'm proud of it. I love my book. And you should read it if you haven't yet. The very first chapter is about how a guy that I was seeing went down on me moments after I pooped my pants. And I didn't know I'd pooped my pants. Sharted, right? If you don't know what that is, I don't believe you, but it's where you think you're pooping, or you think you're farting, and then you really poop your pants. That guy was, and so as I'm reading it, and then like the first like 5 stories are about me like almost shitting my pants somewhere, which is very on brand, but I'm like, oh my God, will this guy find me sexy anymore? I did get his book yesterday, and I'm about to read it. And so I guess hopefully I have stuff in there I can judge him for. But that's the only poop scoop I have, you guys. How am I out of poop stories? Send me your poop stories. Just do it. I think that's it. I will end on, I am one lucky broad. I'm one lucky broad that I get to go see someone who grounds me. Maybe that was the reason why this Seattle went to San Diego. So I would have a reason to finally go see Ali. Ali, who always grounds me. I mean, he's just somebody who just I don't know. It's like like he's one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life, and he's all like emotionally intelligence and actual intelligence. He's got like a PhD. He was like curing cancer for a while. Now he's in like the bureaucracy. I have zero idea what he does for a living now, but he studied to cure cancer, right? He's like one of the smartest, like actual smartest people I've ever met. And then also his emotional intelligence is like off the grid too. He's so fucking and maybe that is the reason why I reached out to Seattle, because I now am going to go down and have a healing afternoon with one of my favorite people that seems to always be able to bring me back or say words that just help in every situation. Right after my dad died, he got married to his wife, who is also just a lovely human. I can't wait to see her too. And because they were getting married, and I think I got their invitation like within days before after my dad died. So I just, one of those things where you don't remember a lot and you just put the invitation down and you're like, okay, well, I'll deal with this in a few days. And then I forgot. And so I called him because it was too late by the time I found it again. Right. I called him and I was like, oh my God, I want to come to your wedding. I didn't RSVP. Oh no, I texted him first. I was like, I'm so sorry, because I was somewhere and I couldn't call him, but I was like, oh my God, I just found your wedding invitation and I didn't RSVP. I'm coming. Please, no, I'm coming. And, I was like, I'm so sorry. My father passed away, and I hadn't really told that many people. He's not on social media really. So I hadn't called people to tell him. People just knew because I announced it on social media, as you do when someone like that dies, because it's just like the phone, you already have to make enough phone calls, and it's already, it's social media is great for that. At least you can just make one blanket statement and then just, isolate for a while. And he called me immediately and he was like, of course you're coming to the wedding. We already got you RSVP, whatever. Right. But he was like, his words were just so comforting. Like he was able to like pinpoint exactly how I felt. And it was like, this death is sad and it's hard, but it's the way it's supposed to go. Um, he was like, your parent dying, the saddest thing in the world is you dying before your parent. That's the saddest thing in the world. But you're supposed to say goodbye to your parents. That's, part of the cycle. Like he's like getting acne or having your first kiss. And it may sound like such a simple pair of words, but it was something I really needed. Not because it just, when you lose someone like that, you feel so isolated and alone. And having someone tell you that this is just a part of the journey, even though on, some intellectual level, that, but having someone like that tell you that. Then when I broke up a boyfriend years and years ago, I was devastated. This was like one of the first heartbreaks I'd ever had, like hard heartbreaks, right? Like this first like serious relationship, and it ended and it was awful. And I just hopped in a car and I drove to San Diego just to be with Ali. And it was a whole weekend of just healing. I just healed this person. So, not Seattle guy set aside, I also have a lot of stuff going on in my, in my personal life, my health, my uncle. I got to return back to the fucking trauma nest of Denver in a few weeks. And maybe, so I'm one lucky broad that I have a person like Ali that is home. I have a lot of those people. I'm grateful, and I get to see him for a night, and I get to see his baby, who looks exactly like his jolly dad, and I can't wait. His baby, I've never met his baby, but he just looks like the most fun baby ever. So, whew, there it is, guys. Thanks for listening. Always, always thank you. If you follow me on everything, Kim Kral, email me at kimkralspace@gmail.com. If you have, while you're a lucky broad, say hi or give me a poop scoop. Give me a goddamn poop scoop. If you want to join Patreon, you can. The bonus episode's like $3 a month, I think. And I'm going to start trying to record these earlier so you get access to early episodes as well. So look out for the 15th, which is in 3 days. I will be having my first episode of my Sexual Revolution 2022 exclusively on Patreon. And then buy my book, please buy my book, Amazon, or you can get a signed copy at kimkral.com. It's Confessions of a Recovering Party Girl. I think that is it. I don't have any shows coming up. I believe I have one at the end of the month that I need to look into because I don't remember. I'm a mess. I'm a mess. I'm a mess. But the message of this episode, which will be the title of it, I'm dropping the rope on everything. You know what I mean? Just fucking surrendering. Just fucking surrendering. All right, everyone. I love you. Be safe. Be kind. It's really rough right now. It's a tough time to be a human. So be kind to one another. And I will talk to you soon. Bye.